We thank technology which Lord alone has given to us, making this possible for more than 100 of us this evening here in India and for some of you early morning to get together and apply our mind to Bhagavad Gita. I will straight away share with you a couple of thoughts about what I mean by punchlines and benchmarks. Some of you may be wondering, why are Swamijis into punching now? I am not punching anybody. It is Lord Sri Krishna who, in his immortal classic of this Bhagavad Gita, has provided a number of punchlines all through the 18 chapters. I say 18, though to be precise, it is the 17 chapters starting from 2nd to the 18th. But by Upalakshana, we say in all the 18 chapters. So, what are punchlines and what are benchmarks? Very briefly, punchlines in this context are just quarters of shlokas. You know, every shloka has 4 quarters called pada. So here and there we pick up such pada. For example, karmanyevadikaraste. That is just a quarter. That is just a pada. And that pada can provide to us a lot of food for thought. That pada, that quarter is the punchline which makes us think twice before getting into a sad mood or getting into a moment of undue pride and whatnot. So, punchline, let me be brief, is such crisp, short phrases which are typically just a quarter of a shloka, which have tremendous significance. They have a punch in them. Then comes benchmarks. Benchmark is a word used especially in the corporate world where somebody sets certain standards. Somebody performs, somebody brings out a certain quality of a product, and then everybody in that domain, everybody in that industry tries to match up to that level, for that is the standard. So in good old days, Lord Rama in Ramayana, in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira, and in recent times, great leaders like Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela in different parts of the world, they set benchmarks for behavior. Now, Bhagavad Gita doesn't give to us stories or description of personalities. We're giving the name of the person, but there are descriptions of how wise people behave. And that description, that pointer, this is how a wise lady or a wise man behaves, becomes a benchmark for you and me to emulate, to try to rise to those standards. Therefore, to study the Gita, which we shall do now for these 7 sessions, is a very valuable exercise. We must, in fact, get headlong into this particular study and look at our own life. It is for improving our daily living that we study the Gita. Now, though we have given a 1.5 hour window, and today almost half an hour we spent in certain formalities, my talk typically will be about 45 or 50 minutes. Today also maybe next 30-35 minutes I will present all that I have to say, and following that kindly feel free to ask a question or two. So here we go, and let me see, let me try to at this moment open a PowerPoint presentation. Very simple, not much really. However, it will be, I thought, helpful to every participant to take a look at some of the punchlines as given in these slides. So we have just 6 or 7 slides here. In fact, I thought we have 7 evenings with us, and there is no point in trying to share too much every time. So I thought every day I will share 6 punchlines. And, you know, I could never go far in cricket, but at least in my discourses, let me hit a sixer every day. And then in 7 days, you have 42 punchlines. I have a project actually where I want to collect 108 punchlines and make it into a little nice book. So here I go for Okay, host has disabled participant screen sharing, it says. May I request
Yes,
Manish?
Swamiji. Let me check.
Ah, I got as I clicked on screen sharing.
Swamiji, can you please try now?
I will now try. Yeah. Uh, moment. Yes, now it's coming. And I go. Okay, now tell me whether you are able to see my slide.
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, because in between something can go wrong. So this is the home slide, the front slide, punchlines and benchmarks, guidance from Bhagavad Gita. So very simple, well-known guidelines by the great Lord Sri Krishna, the flute bearer of Vrindavan, as Swami Chinmayananji used to refer to him. And I want to begin on this first session here, pointing out that all spirituality is such that we have to do our part. Nobody should imagine, okay, now I have gone for spirituality. Now it is all for God to take care of my life. Because here and there we read such stuff. Surrender to God and He will do everything. As though whipping us up on that point, Sri Krishna says to us in this 6th chapter, one must lift oneself by oneself. So we say, oh my, so that means I can't sit back on an armchair. Of course you cannot. Uddhared atmana atmanam. This is one of the punchlines. Uddhared atmana atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. You got to do your part. Lord Krishna seems to be a tremendous negotiator. Unless you do your 2 cents, I am not going to give you the remaining 98 cents. Agreed, the 2 cents that we put in is also given by him only. But we are asked to play a little role of ours. Therefore, no wonder all the great mystics, great realized souls like Sri Ramakrishna say to us, we must put one step towards God. He then will come 10 steps towards us. So, Uddhared Atmana Atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. Lord is not asking us to manage everything by ourselves. There is always some Purushartha. Purushartha means what we can do, what we ought to do. And by doing what is in our hands, we will invoke, we will open our door for divine grace to come to us. Therefore, we must be very clear that while from a higher point of view, it is always true that everything is decided by God. Tena vina trinamapi na chalati. Even a blade of grass cannot move unless God wants it that way. But then that is the higher point of view. On our level, it is very clear that we do have a little in our hands. I must have told many of you in various satsangs. A young girl went with her mother to a satsang, and some Swamiji, some Guruji was explaining how everything is decided by God. And next morning, the young girl would not get up to go to school. And when her mother went to, wake her up, the child said, Amma, I heard yesterday, I came with you in the satsang. If God has decided that I will be going to school today, I will anyhow be going. Why do you interfere between God and me? So the mother smiled. Okay, my daughter is getting too smart. After all, my daughter, right? So she comes downstairs, and after half an hour, this Rajkumari slowly comes down to the kitchen and says, Amma, what is available for breakfast today? And the mother says, I haven't made anything at all. What? There is no breakfast today? And then mother says, if God has decided that you will be getting idli or dosa, dokla or poha, some that will come. Why should I interfere between God and you? Then that daughter says to the mother, please forgive me. I apologize. Give me something to eat. I am very hungry. So like that young girl, you and I would be making a big mistake, friends, if we think that God will do everything. In fact, there is a state of consciousness, a high state of consciousness where we do see, not because some book has said, there is an intuitive outlook where we realize whatever is going on at my hands or at other hands is all by God's will. So, Uddhared Atmana Atmanam. Second punchline in chapter 3. By the way, each slide has a number on top, 3.8. That is not the third over and eighth, there's no eighth ball in an over. Third chapter and eighth shloka. And Lord Krishna gives a punch. Karma jyayo hi akarmanaha. At any rate, to be active is superior to lie back and not act at all. Be a man of action. Don't hurriedly think of renunciation. Everything should happen in a natural, beautiful way, not by some half digested so called wisdom. Therefore, in this slide, I have put a second rectangle by the side. Do, and do. In Bhagavad Gita, the main listener is Arjuna, and Lord Krishna is uncompromising, relentless in telling Arjuna, you must get up, Uttishta Bharata, and do your work. And I start this series with this emphasis on doing because, I don't mind making selected confessions. Even Swamijis like me at times become a bit lazy. Oh, who will do this? Yeah, I told somebody I will send an article by 10th, but let that person wait for another 10 days, and so on. This jadya, this tamoguna, this tendency to postpone, procrastinate, doesn't spare anybody. Against the backdrop of that tamoguna, this is said. Come on, let us do what is possible at our hands. None of us is asked by Bhagavad Gita to be like some Narendra Modi who sleeps only 4 hours or so. A lot of these leaders, a lot of eminent people in various fields, they work day and night. And Gita is not asking us to overnight become like them. But Gita says, oh dear, if you can recognize what it is that you can do, you better get down to doing it. Therefore, karma jyayo hi akarmanaha. That doesn't mean that we, headlong get into some misconceived action. So please see, in the bottom box, what is given in first line is Lord Krishna's advice. It is almost translation of the selected punchline. Karmajyayo hi akarmanaha. Action is certainly superior to inaction. Then in black letters is how we must reflect on it. We must receive wise advice. We must go for balanced outlooks and then act. We must act. It is action. Swami Chinmayananji used to call action as the signature of life. When there is no action, then life comes to an end. So this is the second punchline, karma jyayo hi akarmanaha. Now we go to the third punchline. This is today, it's all about action, doing our duty. When we think about action, it is likely that you and I at times get so excited that we just keep doing something or the other, some meaningless, insensible things too, or something which is not important, which is none of our business, which is some fancy or some distraction, some temptation makes us go for something, and some provocation may make us violent. Hold on. Lord Krishna says, when I say be active, I mean be active in the sphere of duty. Karyam. Karya is the word which means duty, what needs to be done. 100 things are not our duty. We feel very tempted to do it though. Some of us with lot of talent have such a weakness for what is not our duty. With a list of tasks before us, these are the things that need to be done. We comfortably put that list aside and go for some fancy work. It may be respectable. We open some YouTube video and listen to a 1 hour speech by some WHO chief or maybe Obama or somebody and saying, yeah, he spoke well. Hold on. You did not attend to your duty from morning. It is now noon already. But you are listening to Obama or some WHO chief or all these things. Duty first. Karyam karma. Karya is duty. Then samachara means, chara itself means do, achara means perform, samachara means do it well. Do it well. Having decided this is my duty, this is worth doing, this is meaningful, then we should do it well in the best possible manner. So this was the third punchline. And if you and I reflect on these punchlines and integrate them into our way of living, we will definitely reach closer to the great benchmarks that Bhagavad Gita sets before us. We march on to the fourth punchline now. Here, Sri Krishna supplies more details. Sometimes, even when we are doing our duty, we find that we are not happy because part of our mind says, I have been performing my duty, I have been working day and night, I have been sweating, I have been toiling, but nobody seems to recognize me. People are not appreciating me. I have not been getting the rewards which should have come to me. Sri Krishna says you need to fine tune your own attitude a little more. Shabash, if you are doing your duty, that's wonderful, keep it up. But one more dimension is, even as you perform your duty, ensure that you don't waste your energy. You don't dissipate your emotional energy over, as we say, phala. Phala is what comes to you, and karma is what comes out of you. Do your karma to the best of your ability, and if people appreciate it and rewards come your way, wonderful. Suppose for some reason you do not get the results as you had expected, of course, do some double checking whether there is some other option, whether there is another way to go about it. Bhagavad Gita never says just go on working with your eyes closed. Gita is the last book of wisdom to tell us become a doormat for everybody to walk on you. Absolutely not. Do some double checking. If you like, change your job. If you like, go to a new place. If you like, change your field. All that is possible. But not cribbing and complaining, and wherever you go, if you carry just regrets and frustrations, that's not going to help. Therefore, it is said, as the black words in the slide show, we must do our best and leave the rest. Do the best and leave the rest. I am quoting Chinmaya once more. This is the key to reduce our heartburn, not only in some professional work, but even in intimate relationships, in a whole lot of relationships between spouses, between business partners, between brothers, sisters, between teachers and students, and whatever. In all relationships, when we emphasize more than what is optimum on what we are getting, the result is heartburn. We feel so sad. When we downplay what others gave to us and we highlight what we can give to them, then we will be more cheerful. Every day of ours is going to be filled with cheer, with delight. We will be inspired and people will also be inspired by us. No wonder I'm never tired of quoting John F. Kennedy in his commencement address had said to Americans, ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country. That is the Karma Yoga principle of Gita restated, reworded in a different way. Therefore, phale sakto nibadhyate. Chapter 5, verse number 12. If you are attached to what you got, then you are stuck. You will suffer. So the interesting part is it's not that less rewards made you unhappy. Actually, the deeper secret is your attachment to the rewards makes you sad when it was less and proud when it is more. So one needs to get learn this art of performing, giving our best, giving the best to everybody in all relationships. But of course, be watchful and not take to heart if for some reason beyond our control the results are less than what we had expected. This was the fourth punchline, and all the chapters have plenty of punchlines. Now, within this context of karma yoga or and do, that is the commitment to an active life, of course, within our capacity, we have one more punchline by Sri Krishna, and I added this because a discourse on karma would be incomplete if I don't quote this particular line. Perhaps it would not be an exaggeration to say that this particular quarter from second chapter, 47th verse, is the most quoted quarter of the entire Bhagavad Gita. When Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister of India, India brought out a postage stamp on Bhagavad Gita, and this was put on that stamp. Karmani eva adhikaraha te. Te means you. Literally, your right is only to your work, not to the result thereof. And Shankaracharya gives another meaning there. You are, O Arjuna, referring to Arjuna, you are entitled to karma, that is work, not to sannyasa. See, karma is in the middle. On one hand, the results of karma, on the other, karma sannyasa. And Arjuna is advised neither to slip into attachment to karma phala, nor fancy sannyasa for which he is not ready yet. Your adhikara is for karma, not karma sannyasa. Your adhikara, your right, your entitlement is to karma, not to the phala thereof. So double meanings, both are fascinating. I took liberty to translate in the red words below. You are gloriously entitled to give your best in the field of action. That is a great entitlement. Celebrate. The fact that you are able to do something for a cause should make you happy. But then don't dissipate your energy on, the phala has relevance in three periods of time: the past, the present, and future. Sometimes our mind goes back to the past. In 2012, I had worked so much, but I only got a pittance. So 2012, 8 years ago. So what I got was less. That is phala. Or here in 2020, amidst all this COVID-19 crisis and everything, I may be having a certain heartburn. No matter what I do, he or she never appreciates it. So at this present time, what I am getting, and then the mind is very capable of thinking of, at this rate, in another 5 years, I will be doomed. So the mind creates a very dark picture of our future, what we will get. So what I got, what I am getting, what I will get are all nothing but phala. And brooding over phala results, spending more energy than what is appropriate, is what Sri Krishna criticizes. Otherwise, yeah, nobody says go to work and don't expect a salary. Nobody says go on helping somebody and shut your eyes to his or her response. No, no, keep your eyes open. And when the other party is not responding properly, do try to understand. Maybe some mid course correction is needed. Maybe that person's expectations are totally different. You are imposing on her or him what she or he doesn't want from you, etc., etc. So do examine. Gita doesn't say don't examine, but then it's all very subtle. You need to introspect. When we introspect with a bit calm mind, we see where we had overstepped and so on. Now, with this, 5 out of this session's sixer is they are over. Now, the sixth, last but not the least, is, I thought I should add this because this emphasis on doing and doing should not be driven to such an extreme as though God has no role to play. On the contrary, even as we are doing our work, even as we do our 2 cents, even as we do what is possible at our hands, Bhagavad Gita uncompromisingly advises us to remember God all the time. One of the sweetest quotations of Sri Ramakrishna is, when one of our hands is at work, hold God with the second. And as soon as the work is over, hold God with both the hands. No matter what the scenario is, what pressures we are going through, Gita advises us to remember God. And generally people ask, when we are having so much of problems, how can we remember God? Let problems come to an end, then we will remember God. That is ridiculous. The example is given. When someone has severe toothache, no matter where one is, with whom one is, what one is doing, one is aware of the toothache. One is constantly, aware. It is paining and so on. So, giving that example, it is said, no matter how much responsibility you may have, you can actually think of God. And if some of us don't believe in the personified God, Rama, Krishna, Shiva, and so on, think of the divine law, think of the law of life, think of truth Truth is God. Think of God as justice, as some law that is above all other laws. Certainly, this universe, this creation, has something way beyond what our limited intellect can understand. Keeping that in mind, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. Never translate it literally saying Sri Krishna is asking us to remember him and fight. Because Yudhya in Paninian Sanskrit it is Yudhyaswa means fight. That expression fight was given for Arjuna for in his context his duty happened to be to fight the war at that time. Even Arjuna had other duties at other times. But on that day, the first day of Kurukshetra war, his duty was written on the wall. Fight the war. Fight the war for the sake of Pandavas, for the sake of justice. And therefore the word Yudhya. Otherwise, for you and me, remember God and Kartavyam Kuru. That is the teaching. Thus, friends, I shared 6 punchlines in this first session, which doesn't mean I have completely covered the field of action, selfless action, loving action, action performed with heart and soul. I cannot cover them just in 6 punchlines. There are many more, and the entire body of Bhagavad Gita, upon more and more study, gives to us such beautiful vistas, perspectives of how we may play our role in our life at whatever station we may be, and that is Karma Yoga. This Karma Yoga is the starting point for most of us. As we get more mature, we get into Bhakti, Jnana, and so on. Otherwise, you and I are time and again face to face with the question, what shall I do now? This is the new challenge before me. What is the right thing to do? And so on, don't we? Therefore, we began with karma. So let me pause here and welcome questions if there are any. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namah.
If permitted, I will ask a question.
Please, could you mention your name and then go ahead?
Thank you, Swamiji. My name is Chandrasekhar. I know certain actions may be due to moha or krodha or that is anger. It's wrong, but
Yeah.
I cannot stop doing that action. I repeat and I repent, but
Yeah.
unable to control. Can you
Yeah.
kindly guide me, Swamiji?
Yeah. In fact, we are all in the same boat. We do many things which cause regrets in us afterwards. At the time of doing, a part of our mind says, hey, you should not be doing it. But the force of our old habits is too strong. So, what I would advise is we must first reduce the dissipation of energy in just guilt and shame and self condemnation and calling ourselves unfit, etc., etc., because that is all a wastage of energy. Not that we endorse what we did. What we did was wrong. We should not have done that. We should not have spoken that. Or sometimes we should not have even entertained certain negative thoughts. But it went out of our hands. Now, without wasting energy on just blaming oneself, one must as quickly as possible, as early as possible, get down to right activity. Suppose one day in the morning we do something, we get so angry with our own spouse or daughter or son, and say some very, very harsh words. Now there are two options. For rest of the day, if not for next 3 days, we don't show our face to anybody, or we make a face at everyone, or we go around with the head down. That is one option. Other option is within a half an hour, we, if possible, apologize to them, or if that is not working out, at least on our part, we forget or we put behind what happened and start doing some good gestures. To the same person whom we were harsh half an hour ago, within half an hour we go and, you know, express some care, some friendly gesture. And in our own work also, we feel like not doing any work that day because our heart is so, bitter now. No, we say, I don't want to go on and on with this. No matter what wrong I did, now there are a few things to do. I want to do them in a calm mind. In this way, in summary, we must begin with bringing ourselves back to normal as early as possible, and then we will get good insights. The divine intelligence will give us insights to mend fences and make that relationship better also. Yeah. So Chandrasekhar, you may please turn your mic off
Thank you.
now, and someone else
Thank
may
you.
turn the, yeah, welcome.
Thank
Someone
you,
else
sir.
turn
Let
the,
me try to practice.
yes, we should all practice this. We are
Thank
all
you.
in the same
Thank you,
boat.
sir. Thank you. Let me start with baby steps and practice. Go further. Thank you, sir.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Right. Mention your name and
Hari Om Swamiji, this is Suruchi.
yeah.
I just wanted to ask for the second punchline that you shared, wherein the third one, sorry, wherein you said that one should not yield to distractions or fancies.
Correct.
So it's a very difficult thing to do.
No doubt.
And how should one achieve that? And
I would put
basically
it
work towards your one's goal and
well
duty.
expressed. Very well expressed. I would put it this way. It is very difficult for us not to fall for temptation, not to get provoked by somebody's, harsh behavior and so on. But if you closely examine, there are scenarios where it is doable, and then there are some scenarios where it's impossible for us. So we begin with such scenarios, such situations where we can actually hold back, right? And we begin with what is possible. Sometimes, before we do something, there is some time also. So when we have some time before actually acting on the matter, there also we'll have option. So I get a strong desire, though I am diabetic, I want to go to town tomorrow and just enjoy some ice cream. Now, this time I cannot go. I'm literally saying this is evening here now, but my mind is saying, let me go to town and enjoy some ice cream. Now I have time. Then, that is when we can do some sadhana. Maybe if we are into some bhakti, tonight, eat a little less, recite Vishnu Sahasranama, or tomorrow morning, without taking a decision on eating ice cream, first do 45 minutes of yogasana and pranayama. So when you do some healthy thing, quite possibly that urge to go and enjoy some ice cream, evaporates, or its strength becomes less. So I sum up my answer, Suruchi, that it is not true to say that in 10 out of 10 situations we just cannot do anything. There are always 4 out of 10 situations where we do find in ourselves certain balance, certain strength, though a bit uncomfortable. After all that Vishnu Sahasranama and morning yogasana and all, at 11 a.m. I may feel like just walking out to the town and enjoy some ice cream. But then, because of this, some sadhana, some good work I had done, there is some discomfort is in me, but also there is some strength. There is enough strength to say, no, No, I am bent upon bringing my sugar levels down. I'll not do this mistake. That too, at this age, I am no more a high school boy or girl, you know. So there is some, it's called Atma Sambodhana. We can talk to ourselves and persuade. But I do agree with you. The other 6 out of 10 are very hard and we do fail. And there, like I answered the previous question, when we do fail, the best thing is let us try to return to certain balance and normal state as early as possible rather than sinking in regret or guilt or shame.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Suruchi. We will take 2 more questions for this session, and then I guess there is some little formality at the end. And anybody, of course, who has to leave, feel free to leave. This is anytime you join and anytime you leave. If there are 1 or 2 questions, we will handle them.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Who is speaking?
This is Rani
Yes.
from Chicago.
Yes, Rani
Uh,
ji.
Yes, my question is a little bit broader, that we were talking about how one should not constantly be feeling guilty and all that because of your bad actions.
Yeah,
But how about the actions of the leaders?
right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you very well.
Hello. If the actions of other party, whether they are leaders or the relationships, they are pretty bad, which are affecting you, how do you at that point kind of, act or not react, but be proactive?
True. So here too, the difficulty is our old habits, and we need to reflect on our study. You know, what you have described comes to issues like forgiveness, issues like broad-mindedness. And there is a lot of material for us to study or munch on or reflect on. You know, one of the quotes of Pujya Swamiji was, to get angry with somebody is to punish yourself for his mistake. So when we find someone has made a mistake and we are having some heartburn, we must realize that this heartburn is a punishment that I am giving to myself for her mistake or his mistake. In the same way, someone else said, when we do not forgive, it is like carrying a heavy weight at our waist. Imagine a heavy stone has been tied to our waist, and it is such a burden. You know, these days you and I wear a mask and go out, and it suffocates. And we say, you know, this morning here I went out with a mask, and in between, when there are no people around, I would remove it for a little while, breathe some fresh air. You know, then again, as somebody is approaching me on the road, put it again. You know, so even a little mask can be such burden. So is the case with our inability to forgive, inability to look at the other person sympathetically or in a larger picture. And when I say lastly, larger picture doesn't literally mean condoning, doesn't mean that I say whatever he is doing is all right, but I say he is doing wrong, but that is because of some of his background, that is because of his inability to change himself. He's hurting himself, he is hurting all of us. Oh my. So when we see a certain larger background, certain sympathy arises in us, which doesn't mean we let him do whatever he is doing, but we will take some action with our heart remaining relatively calm. You know, so like Gandhiji used to say, hate the deed but not the doer. Such things become possible for us thanks to some reflection.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Last question for the session, if there is any.
My question, Swamiji, Ramesh Rajani from Bombay.
Haji, namaskar.
Namaskar, Swami. My question is that your mind should be where your hands are working.
Yeah.
And you say that God, that And this one, God says, remember me constantly.
Yeah.
How both the things are possible simultaneously?
Ah, you know, very interesting question. During my college days, I used to believe that when you are doing something, it should be just that. And then I found a friend of mine who used to stand first in his stream, mechanical engineering. He used to be first and bright boy. One day he told me, that whenever he studies, he has to have the radio on with some music. I was shocked. I said, Maltesh, his name was Maltesh Kulkarni. Maltesh, you are the brightest boy of your discipline. Our branch was different. And you say that you keep radio on? He said, yeah, that is how it works. When the radio is on and some songs are going on, some Bollywood song maybe, he is able to study his mechanical engineering subjects very well. So it is not true to say that the human mind gets crippled by attending to two things. Actually, the human mind is capable of performing very well if there is remembrance of God. But there are a lot of other things which actually weaken us. God's thought is not like that. Remembrance of God is not something that weakens us. Actually, remembrance of God is like, in this COVID-19 scenario, let me give an analogy. Remembering God every now and then is like sanitizing or washing our hands every now and then. It's a great thing to do. Every now and then take 2 minutes break and say Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. It's like you wash your hands with soap and you are fit and healthy. So rather than saying I lost 2 minutes, some people are very impatient. 20 seconds you have to wash with soap. I can't do that. 10 seconds only I can give. Dear sir, we should say to them, if you spend those 20 seconds, you will save so much trouble to yourself. Therefore, my brief answer, Ramesh ji, is we are very much capable of carrying these two together, not maybe so many other worldly things, but duty and remembrance of God can gel together without causing a cut in our performance or efficiency. Thank you all. By Shri Krishna's grace, we have made a good beginning. I request Nimish and Mohan ji to take up the conclude.
Archana ji will sing the Nirvana Shatakam.
With that we conclude. Oh.
Archana,
Yeah. Real.
please put your video also on, Archana.
Okay. If that's fine. मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्तानिनाहम् न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायुः न वा सप्तधातुर्न वा पञ्चकोशः न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्थपायुः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् मे द्वेषरागौ न मे लोभमोहौ मदौ नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञा अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्मः न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपः विभुर्व्याप्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां सदा मे समत्वं न मुक्तिर्न बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम्